Newport Consulting's annual business survey showing business confidence running at a 3-year low, and it's of course now prompting companies to reduce staff, downgrade growth forecasts and increase prices. Well, let's get more details with Newport Consulting's Managing Director David Hand with me in studio. David, welcome to you now. That is the conundrum that just when one might have thought there was light at the end of the tunnel, it seems to have got a whole lot darker all of a sudden. How do you account for that slide back into negativity?
We're looking, I think, at a changing in sentiment and confidence. When we started our State of Play survey 2 years ago, it was just after the global financial crisis had come through. We felt, you know, that really it was doom and gloom in sort of January to April in 2009. We did our first survey after that, and we think that companies had began to realise that, you know, the apocalypse hadn't happened. There was life after this, and there was quite a lot of optimism that we could come through this. But I think 2 years on, the sentiment is saying, well, no, things have actually changed. The global financial crisis hasn't really gone away, and our business confidence, I think, is showing that now.
It's sort of beguilingly seductive, though, to latch on to certain elements of the survey and take them out of context. For instance, it's worth recognising that still a majority of companies are expecting growth of between 10 and 20%. So most respondents are talking about double-digit growth. That's nothing, though, to sniff at.
That's correct. I think that you know, I think the thing that's come through in our survey, though, is that the companies that are expecting no growth or negative growth have doubled. Now, it's a small percentage in the sense that it's under 20%, but nevertheless, we're seeing a shift in sentiment towards the negativity.
And I suppose that's borne out as well with CapEx intentions out into the future not being on the radar. It's not featuring front and centre, but at the same time they're saying to you innovation is key into the future.
That's right. How
do you square the circle on that? It almost seems counterintuitive. You've got to invest in order to foster innovation.
We think that what companies are telling us is that they are the usual places to go to make adjustments to survive as business circumstances change are narrowing down. And innovation, of course, is a hard thing to do. A lot of people talk about innovation, but it's different than simply postponing something or bringing through a project that was in your mind. Now we're saying, I think we're seeing businesses saying we need to change, and I think. Then I think the future of that is uncertain. People don't absolutely see clearly how they're going to change and adjust to the circumstances which we feel, as they look out into the economic environment, are increasingly uncertain.
Well, are they beginning to see a way of navigating then, I suppose, the other key priority of productivity in the form of the way their hiring intentions are being shaped out into the next 12-month horizon? Because this shift now looks to be quite clear that there is an adaptation, there's a move away from perhaps job hoarding and labour hoarding, which might have been the case.
Yeah, more respondents to our survey have expressed some intent to reduce their staff numbers.
Are they linking that to productivity directly, or is it just well,
we don't think so. We think productivity is a sort of an unloved sort of uncle, if you like. Productivity is where companies find ways to do things better and therefore can capitalise on the benefits of that. What we think we're seeing here, though, is companies are expressing a negative sentiment about revenue and about growth.
Right.
And therefore, as they look at the future and they look at the cost pressures that may be coming on their business, they begin to look at productivity or reducing staff, which a lot of people can consider to be the same, even though they're not quite, to be the way forward.
And yet you've kind of linked that idea of how you handle your staff to a strategy that SMEs are now seizing on. So to even give it that attribute of a strategy suggests it's more than just a last gasp solution. It is actually a well thought out proposition in this market to go from having full-time staff to either contractual workers or simply not replacing staff at all.
I think that certainly a shift towards casual contract workers and outsourcing services, that's a clear strategy that's been going on for actually decades. we feel that companies are looking towards doing that, and it's a clear, sensible strategy for a business to increase its flexibility.
But did they exploit that pre, say, 2010? It sounds like they were hoping for the best. And therefore clinging on to maybe even full-time workers.
Well, what happened in the global financial crisis is that companies that have been travelling quite well up until late 2008, they hit this problem and they don't really know how long it's going to go for. And so many companies put together a strategy to hang on to their key people and hang on to their staff, hoping they would come out of it. But we're now 2.5 years on from that.
Writing's on the wall.
And companies are not seeing a return to 2007.
Tell me how that's also borne out in passing on costs, because, again, maybe a strategy that might have worked so far can't be sustained indefinitely into the future.
That's correct. Yeah, you can hang on. You can hang on for a while, but eventually, for your business numbers to maintain where they need to be, you need to do something to maintain your margins, to maintain your business viability.
How much of a tightrope do they walk? Because their rationale for absorbing those costs was that they wanted to retain their customers.
Correct.
But if your business costs are hitting your own bottom line to such an extent that shareholders are saying, well, come on, something's got to give. It's time that these costs are passed on. You're in a catch-22.
We think that most companies they're looking at the revenue line as well as the cost line, and so therefore as you forecast how you're going to cope with various changing conditions, you make decisions about your confidence about both of those. And we feel that as companies are becoming more pessimistic about their revenue line, they're turning towards their cost line and they're saying, well, this isn't going to be over by the end of this year, therefore we need to start laying in place things to adjust.
Briefly, finally, you flag, as far as the outlook goes, a training of a sales force to ensure they have the capabilities now to sell into this new paradigm. But if you are, in turn, telling staff it's goodbye to all that, it's a tough one to square. Are sales staff going to be the last shoe to drop, as it were, in kind of a retrenchment environment?
Yeah, I don't want to overstate too much the retrenchment environment. I want to come back to your earlier comment that we're talking about a change in sentiment here, and still a significant number of people were expecting growth. So we're really just talking, the survey's talking about uncertainty rather than the apocalypse is nigh, let's slash and burn. People are not rushing into that, but the sentiment has definitely changed. So
the expectation, therefore, can reasonably be that as we go through the rest of this year, don't be surprised if unemployment starts to tick up.
That's correct.
All right. Listen, thank you so much for your insights, David Hand. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me on.
There you have it, Newport Consulting's Managing Director with their latest report, The Current State of Play 2011-12. No less, managing in a multi-speed economy. Well, now, this year's Nobel Prize for Economics